I finally played Bloodborne, the hack and slash and smack and dash game released on PlayStation 4 exclusively in 2015. What if John Darksoul was actually British and contracted a deadly disease, and the only cure, tearing through the cult of the Healing Church one great one at a time? It's 11 years later, so I'm playing on the PlayStation 5, and to all you babies ready to complain about 30 FPS, suck it up. This game is still peak. The character creator jump-scared me with a recently divorced dad, and I jump-scared it right back with Burdette, the grandma with a violent past. Crazy that each of the starting classes is just a reason to go to therapy, and what better therapy than just hacking my way through vile monsters while seeking a meaning for my sorry existence. Within this context, of course. But before all that, Peepaw gives Meemaw a blood transfusion in a back alley clinic. I learn that beasts that look flammable are indeed flammable, and then I get swarmed by a bunch of Pillsbury doughboys who didn't heed the dare warnings in middle school. You really hate to see him go down that path. And then I find myself in Isofisca's clinic, thrust off the bed in an infirmary with no idea where to go or what to do. But you know who won't leave you stranded in an infirmary with no clue what to do? The sponsor of today's video, ZocDoc. When I moved a few years ago, it felt daunting to navigate the healthcare system, make calls, scramble to find appointments, and to be able to find a new doctor while also juggling everything else on my plate. Between a new job, new home, and not knowing many people, it would have been really helpful to have a service like ZocDoc at my fingertips. ZocDoc makes searching for a new doctor so easy. They let you search for doctors in-network with over 150,000 providers and 200 specialties across all 50 states. It's free to use, allows you to see current appointment openings in real time, and typically you can find an appointment within 24 to 72 hours, and sometimes the same day. ZocDoc could have saved me a lot of time and effort when it came to finally closing the deal on a new doctor. If you're like me and don't feel like an adult but also can't ask your mom to call the doctor for you, ZocDoc is the next best thing. It makes it so easy so you can focus on more important things like playing Bloodborne for 34 hours straight. Your health is important and you can't respawn. Yet. But you can click the link in the description or the pinned comment to start prioritizing your health today, or go to ZocDoc.com/burd to book an appointment with a top-rated doctor today. I know it may seem small, but clicking the link in the description is already a huge step towards prioritizing your health. Thank you again to ZocDoc for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the absolute clinic that I'm running on the streets of London. I've just been informed it's actually pronounced Yusefka's clinic. My bad. I opened the door and ignored the tutorial messages like a true Souls player. Definitely won't regret that later. And then I ran past Mr. Wolf, opened another door, picked up some bullets, and made my way to Central Yarnum. Absolute cinema. I was greeted by some of the local residents who were trying to show me a way through. I don't know, I mean that's what it sounded like he said, but also maybe he wasn't that helpful because he lit me on fire and then emoted on my body. I wake up in the hunter's dream, said howdy-do to the abandoned doll, and then I was offered a gift from the messengers, a shiny new trick weapon. Who, me? I'm more of an axe man. I also took a sidearm before taking the headstone back to Yarnum. Very Demon Souls. This time in the clinic I was armed, so I decided to take on the big bad wolf, and then practice my parries. The parries in this game are kinda sick, because instead of deflecting with a shield, it's like, what if I was just American? Pop a cap in him. The window feels pretty generous, and it's satisfying. Almost as satisfying as the Beyblade action on this axe. I pulled a lever, and on my way up the ladder I heard the blood-curdling scream of something that definitely wanted to kill me later before making my way to a site of grace. I mean, a bonfire. I mean, archstone. I mean, a lamp. Then I met Gilbert, who told me to seek the church. Usually it's the one doing the knocking that suggests that, but I guess everything's backwards in Europe. Sounds like we're going to church. I killed Thelonious of Duloc before making my way to what appeared to be a very busy starting area of the game. Just very dense, a lot of people, not a big area, and they all gathered in their town square to celebrate the burning of some vile beast. And it looked like some of the residents were changing form as well. But we're not ready to have that conversation yet because they kept calling me a beast. I'm only here to help you. Kind of. Regardless of enemy quantity, nothing was a match for the spin-to-win heavy attack of the axe. Every door I knocked on was the home to maybe the rudest person I had ever met in my entire life, but it's fine. It's not like I get my feelings hurt easily or anything. Then I asserted my dominance as the one true bird in Yarnum. Certainly hope these things aren't just riddled through the entire game. I laid out another big guy, except this one was trying to bash my skull in with a cinder block, and one day I will learn that triangle is not two-handing my weapon. Triangle is use a heal. I promise I will stop wasting blood vials. Also, why am I hearing Murgo's lullaby in Yarnum? Obviously the first time I went through this area I didn't recognize it, but now I do since beating the game. And I don't know what's going on, but I sense some lore is the foot. Anyway, I had the sickest Molotov cocktail throw of my entire Bloodborne career, and then I made my way to a bridge where I ran into Aquila and Raksha. Sorry, Mowgli. I torched the beasts before almost getting torn to shreds myself. I was careless with the first one, but the second one I incinerated before it even knew I was there. I found a path just off the bridge where I got jump scared because this is a horror game, and then I went down to try and talk to Gramps, but he had other ideas in mind. I opened my first shortcut of the game, and I swear there is no greater feeling than opening a does not open from this side door after a long journey. I used my echoes to purchase some more Molotovs, and then I noticed that yay old workshop was open. That's workshop with 2 P's and an E. I upgraded my hunter's axe and then said hello to old man Gehrman, who welcomed me home. He also had a sick hat and a peg leg. And I thought he was a jolly old man until he said something really weird about the doll, and now I hate his guts forever. I really hope it's the doll who chopped off his leg. Sicko. I spent the rest of my money so I wouldn't lose it, and then I went back to the big scary bridge. I tried to take out a big guy, got assaulted by some birds, and then met my first boss of the game, the cleric beast. The monstrosity jumped down onto the bridge Taurus demon style, and the music was immediately phenomenal. The damage from my Molotov cocktails was proving quite effective, my axe, though, not as much. I mean, even upgraded, we're talking 50 damage per R1, but it could always be worse. This fight was very, very sloppy. It was the first real instance of Bloodborne challenging my playstyle and habits that I had built up over playing the other From Software titles. The boss was very aggressive, and it was trying to teach me to be very aggressive as well. The sweeping arms of the beast felt hard to time with my little quick step, and when I did press myself to stay close to the boss, the lock-on plus the narrow arena made it hard to see what the heck was going on. I tossed all of my Molotovs in this fight, and half of them went right over the beast's head. Maybe Granny needs to update her prescription. The consumable blood vials are quick and great for healing, but even more important than that is the rally system. The ability to stay in close to a boss and counterattack to recover some of the damage taken is a really cool concept. And for someone greedy like me, it should have been second nature, but I found myself more often than not backing off to pop blood vials. My health got low a number of times, and as the fight went on, I'd love to say I got better, but it was quite the hard watch from start to finish. My strategy towards the end was to bait the slam attack and then run in and get an R1 poke whenever I could, and after 9 Molotovs, 18 blood vials, the cleric beast goes down on the first try. We take those, and I promise it gets slightly better from here. Back to the hunter's dream I go, and this time the doll was alive, and I can't help but think she might be flirting with me. Back to the bridge and through the house I found some lore, very fun, and then I let it rip on 2 bigger guys. I'm very surprised that I'm able to stagger large foes so easily, but I'm not complaining. And the drop rates for blood vials is pretty good. My fear of running out and having to farm a ton is becoming less and less. I hate dogs in FromSoft games, and Bloodborne is no different, and I'm not above smacking a few dogs in their confines before they can run up on me later. I had a feeling these cages wouldn't hold forever, and all dogs go to heaven, except for the dogs that Miyazaki cooks up. I made it across a bridge and said hi to a little old lady who was very nice and looking for somewhere to stay for the night. I guess we'll keep our eye out because grannies, they look out for each other. I went down to the bowels of Yharnam, and I wasn't sure if the beasts were becoming more man-like or if the men were becoming more beast-like. But a hunter must hunt. I also completely missed that NPC, so I feel kind of like a fraud saying it, but I did say hi to her on my New Game Plus run so far, so my bad, Eileen. If I've learned one thing so far, it's to take out the gun guys and then clean up everyone else afterwards. There is nothing worse than going up against a Beastman and getting your back blown out by a trigger-happy Yharnamite. I dropped down to get a few pieces of loot and then decided the sewers were too scary, so I took the first ladder back up. I found myself some madman's knowledge. Just here in Yharnam. New hunter's axe. Just you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things? Knowledge. I pulled a lever and opened a path back up to the pre-cleric beast area, and then I chatted with a little girl who seemed to be watching a Bloodborne Let's Play. I swear that was Murgo's lullaby again. She was missing her mama and papa. He went hunting, and she went looking for him. I accepted the quest gladly and was given a music box and the task of finding her mother. Oh boy, it's my first quest. Sure hope no one dies or anything. Back down in the sewer, I learned that jump attacks are a thing, and I also learned that they don't do nearly as much damage as I thought they would, but it was totally worth it. I saw Wilbur's rump in the sewers and decided I would let him live one more day. Then I opened a brand new shortcut and made my way to the hunter's dream to upgrade my weapon. I meandered my way to a bridge with a very inconspicuous looking boulder and a man with a torch next to it, but I grew up on the streets of Sen's Fortress, and you can't get me that easily, sir. It was time to walk into the cleared out courtyard that was definitely not a boss arena. Hey, wait, he has my axe. I gotta teach him a lesson. There's only one hunter that can use an axe, and it's me. Papa Gas Can seemed to be exactly who I was looking for, and unfortunately for that child, I was about to kill her father, but hey, maybe her mom's still alive, right? A humanoid boss immediately makes me go into parry mode, and I put Gascoigne on his knees and gave him the old 1-2, and he gave me the 3-4 afterwards. I was really struggling with the parry timings because most of the time I would get the parry after getting hit, and then I would struggle to get out of my stagger in order to get the visceral. He had enough of my tomfoolery and decided to totally trick his weapon, but guess what, sir? I can parry that too, as long as you actually swing at me and stop spamming your damn gun. Cringe, bro. We both let it rip at the same time, except my spacing was better, and I absolutely laid him on his ass. What are you gonna do about it, Gascoigne? What are you gonna... Oh, you're gonna turn into a beast. Well, I did not see that one coming. Despite getting father close to the grave on attempt number 1, the sudden transformation made me panic and run around screaming before getting caught on the architecture and getting laid out twice in a row in rapid succession. No recovery frames in Bloodborne, huh? I got him down to the Attempts number 2 and 3 also ended in me panicking in phase 2. Phase 3? I don't know. But on attempt number 4, I stopped playing like Courage the Cowardly Dog, and I stood up to the beast and put him down with the blicky. I guess beast form looks scary, but it can still be parried. And Gascoigne's hunt comes to an end. Granny loves this gun. Miss Parton was playing hide and seek with me back in the dream, but I found her and let her stand close. Basically, when I play a Souls title for the first time, I pretty much vigor max until I hit the soft cap. There is no better way to learn a boss than being able to stay alive in a boss fight for a decent amount of time. I used the Odin Tomb Key and found more lore. Bergenworth is a funny word. I picked up a workshop tool and then got cutscened. Welcome to Cathedral Ward. I met a totally not suspicious dude who told me that the cathedral was a lovely place to wait out the night, so I went back to Granny's house and told her the good news of the church. Then I went back to the little girl's house and told her the bad news of me smoking her dad. She didn't really seem to care and still wanted me to find her mom, so I told her the good word of the church and hopefully we can send the whole family there. But maybe I missed something at the gas station. I went back to Gascoigne's arena, and after a bit of searching, I found a corpse with a red brooch. That's gonna be awkward at the family reunion. Then I remembered if I want to know what's really going on here, I'd better start reading some item descriptions, so rest in peace to Viola and Gascoigne. Time for some solid progression. I Kali Mod some losers in Cathedral Ward, picked up a useless piece of wood, and then met with a dead end. I went back and took the side exit from Odin. I found some drip and almost got warped to another galaxy, thank goodness for my lightning quick reaction time, and then I put on my totally cool and not cringe top hat. Better be careful, m'lady, cause Jack the Ripper is slicing up losers. Slam. I found more knowledge, got jump scared again, and then ran into Prince Charming from Shrek 2. He survived blistering winds and scorching deserts, protege of Martyr Ligarius, hunter of vile bloods, and what does he find now? Granny. Out on a hunt. I have no plans whatsoever on summoning for help, but thank you very much for the fire paper. A wolf skillfully dodged my Molotov cocktail with its nimble movement, but even so, it wasn't able to blow down my house of bricks. A lantern greeted me at the bottom of my descent, and I went back to the Hunter's Dream to equip my brand new gemstone that raised my attack by a whole 0.7%. Thank you, game. Very cool. I also purchased the hand lantern, drippy and useful. A sign tried to keep me out, but if there's one thing about me, I can't read. And I can't hear either. La 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 la. I can't hear what you're saying. I followed the Bloodborne equivalent of a crystal lizard, and unfortunately I wasn't fast enough, but fortunately the save quit trick from Dark Souls works in Bloodborne, so I was able to quit out, load back in, and claim my prize. I carefully dealt with all the enemies lurking in the smoke trying to scare me, and then I got scared by the one hiding in plain sight. I parried some idiots trying to prove to the mysterious voice that I was indeed a good hunter, but he didn't care and he started to open fire on me with a Gatling gun. I panic ran into a building, and I'm not sure what's worse, Gatling gun spray to the face or 18 enemies in a small dark room. I led them out one by one, and there's nothing a little spin action can't handle. I am a weed whacker, and you are a dandelion in Granny's garden. I'm Larry Boy, and you're the rumor weed. Ooh, ooh. A tiny little story is all I need to make a big mess. I'm the rumor weed. I feel like I'm stimming with the hunter's axe the same way I would spin as fast as I could as a kid until I fell over. I saw the light of day. Or night. I don't know, man. But I started getting riddled with bullets, Superman Returns style. Except I'm not a superhuman alien, so it really hurts. This time I panic ran as fast as I could into some weird cathedral-looking place, and the enemies seemed to alert their brethren that there was an intruder, but lucky for me, they just came through the doorway one at a time. For the most part. Thank goodness my axe doesn't bounce off walls like it would have in other FromSoft titles, because this would have been a very unfortunate time. A deeply upsetting figure was strung up in the center of the room, and I picked up some ritual blood and went on my way. I climbed a ladder that led to a shortcut, but I went down because I was determined to keep braving the wretched alleyways. I found a door that doesn't open yet, but will definitely open in the future. Yay. And then I also found rabid, oversized man dogs that tried to rip my face off. Less yay. I made my way up a winding tower and found another shortcut. These moments are so cool, and things that I miss in a game like Elden Ring. I mean, the legacy dungeons and open world are awesome, but the interweaving, looping level design of the earlier, more linear games are kind of unmatched. Back down in the alleys, I learned that these guys build up poison. So fun. Even more fun than that is this is called slow poison, so it implies that there is another, more deadly, quick poison that I will certainly learn about at some point in the game. I came to what I can only assume is another boss arena and prepared for battle. Ah, I knew you'd come. To stand before the blood. To become born. Continuing on my mantra from Demon Souls, I was determined to use the items that the game gave me, and I loaded up my hotbar with Molotovs, oil pots, and pungent beast cocktails. Not sure if alluring skulls work on bosses in Bloodborne, but we can certainly try. I aura walked up to the blood-starved beast, prepared to tear that Arby's meat mountain of a face to shreds. And to my pleasant surprise, the beast was indeed attracted by the cocktails. I don't think I threw it up high enough on the wall. I can only assume it's the same sort of mechanic as the Dark Souls games, where the enemy goes to investigate it, and then once they've investigated, it's back to the player. But if it's up high on the wall, they can't actually get there, and it allows for more investigation time. I was using all my items, and maybe to my detriment, I was more concerned with landing consumables than I was dodging and hitting the boss. But I was throwing a cocktail, and then an oil pot, and then a Molotov for big damage. The blood-starved beast was getting a full course meal of my consumables, and it was starting to hurt. Once I stopped hucking bottles at this deflated Demogorgon, I finally went in for some melee, but I was playing cautiously, unsure of what attacks were coming next. I was still having a hard time getting it through my head to be aggressive. Bloodborne is all about doing your best to stay on the offensive, and I was having a really hard time with boss fights until I drilled that through my skull. I used the last of my cocktails and got a few good hits in, but as the music started to swell, I was getting nervous. The beast was getting more aggressive and started adding poison to its attacks. Slow poison, thankfully, but my health bar was still depleting faster than I could keep up with healing it. I got caught with my pants down trying to pop a vial, and sadness and despair ensued. Then I remembered the fire paper that Jaime Lannister gave me. Holy aura. And it was time for round 2 with the beast. I purchased some more cocktails from the bird bath shop in the Hunter's Dream, and I had the power of God and anime on my side. I was playing more aggressively with my melee, throwing oil pots and going in for big damage with the flaming axe. I got caught in the flaps of the beast, and when I made it out the other side, I was poisoned. Slowly. I tried to buy myself time to heal, but the beast was fast and relentless. I popped another fire paper and started using the pillars to my advantage, and again played too passively. It also felt like sometimes it was easier to not lock on, once again because of the camera, and because I wanted to see what was going on. I was poisoned once again, but the beast was low and howling in pain, but I was learning, evolving, dodging. I still probably used way too many blood vials, but I was determined to come out on top, and I finally made a roast beast sandwich, and was rewarded with a chalice. I continued to roam the streets and amazed a local crowd with my parrying skills, and found another Bloodborne crystal lizard. What do I call those? Google says it's a scurrying beast, but I don't like that. Let's call them blood barnacles, because they kind of look like barnacles. I was turned around, trying to figure out where to go next, and I found a ladder to climb, only to accidentally come face to face with Gatling gun guy who gave me to the count of 10 before he pumped my face full of lead. When I tell you this NPC was the hardest fight in the game, I don't even know if I'm exaggerating. This is the brutalest, sweatiest, most maidenless NPC fight I have ever seen in any Souls game. I was getting my ass blasted by Chase the Bro. Every time I wanted to get a hit in, I would be interrupted with the longest chain of true comboed moves I'd ever seen in my entire life. No stamina bar for the NPC fighters. No downtime for the NPC fighters. Hey, what if we designed an enemy in our game that was specifically made to ensure that you had a bad day? Well, that's what we have here. I don't even feel like I won in the end because this asshole just jumped off the roof to rob me of the satisfaction of coming out on top. What a view, though. I went in circles for a little bit before heading back to Cathedral Ward. Surely something new hath opened up since I have been here last. Still no sign of the little girl though, so that's mildly concerning. I went up an elevator and got jump scared by a trigger-happy pappy. Still haven't recovered from the last Gatling gun. And I got communion. Whoa. I don't know who Carol is, but thank you for the rune. I spun my axe round and round, killing blokes with stabs and pokes, and I finally made it to the top, got another one of those badge thingies, and then was mocked by a locked door. So back down I went, searching for progression once again, wandering Cathedral Ward once again. I found the monocular, used it, and then panicked when I got stuck in the zoomed-in state. It took me an embarrassing amount of time to realize that I had to use it again. But also, that's so dumb. And what a strange perspective of a zoom-in. I broke this big guy's balls and went down to a cellar, a tomb, I don't know, but I was mocked again with another locked door, but I took advantage of the Bloodborne rage room and broke every pod in there. I was at a loss for what to do next. I found a little elevator secret, but it just led me to another one of those runes, this time from Odin. Thanks, dude, whoever you are. But I was cursed to ever wander Cathedral Ward, cursed to never make progression, cursed to make a fool out of myself in front of my Twitch chat. I tried everything. I even played the music box, hoping the sweet sound would let me through. I wish I was joking when I say I wandered around for about an hour before finally checking the other tabs in the birdbath store, and I purchased the Hunter Chief emblem. How was I supposed to know? Who told me that they had that? You think I'm just gonna explore stuff on my own? I sold some shards to buy the emblem, cause why not keep the dumbassery going, and I was finally able to move on from Cathedral Ward. Feel like Brendan Fraser in Inkheart. I had new enemies to kill, new roads to travel, and new doors to knock on. Howdy, neighbor. Oh, it's a woman seeking refuge. Look no further than the Church of Odin. Praise be, for the night is dark and full of terrors. I got jump scared again, asserted my dominance, collected some more drip, and annoyed a few more neighbors. And then I learned that I was gonna need some super secret password if I wanted to go to Bergenworth. Still a funny name. I'm thinking the password is boobies, but I guess we'll see. I added another reason to the long list of why I hate dogs in FromSoft games, and then opened a shortcut back to the Central Plaza, and then one more back to Cathedral Ward. I used poison knives to take care of some particularly scary looking enemies, and once they died of tetanus, I opened the door to an impending boss fight. I was a bit scared, so quick times back to the Hunter's Dreams to spend my echoes so I don't lose them. When I warped back to the ward, I met a lady who offered me her blood. Whore's blood. Thank you, Ariana. Very cool. Also, a little bit surprised that you have shoes on. Now let's go see about that boss. It's a cutscene boss, so you know it's gonna be epic. The lady turned into, well, a bigger lady, I guess, and also a reindeer. Hello, Vicar Amelia. Okay, the screaming is a bit much. You kind of did this to yourself. I had one more fire paper to put to use, and she looked quite flammable. I did my best to stay in close, and she left herself open for big punishes. Especially the two-handed slam. I was able to get in a full charged R2, and we're cooking. Literally. I still wasn't really taking advantage of rally like I should, but I was doing better at staying in close and being aggressive, so baby steps. I threw some more Molotovs and got a stagger a few times, but seeing as how I was playing like an idiot, I used those moments of downtime for a safe heal. Damage was exchanged both ways, and she was sending me flying across the arena with her swings and sweeps and a hitbox that clearly missed, but whatever. She was down below half health, and I had used half my blood vials, and in one last-ditch effort to hold on, she started to heal. Awesome. Why does it always feel so unfair when bosses heal? It's like I'm sitting here, blood doping with 20 vials, but as soon as the boss heals once, no, unfair, stop. What the hell, man? I earned that damage. I don't care. I'll still cry about it. She got back to half health, and I was determined to lock in. You know, after taking a few hits straight to the face. Her swipes were more erratic, and some of her combos had extra moves, but with my spinning, slashing, and Molotovs when I was a bit too far away, I was doing much better in the second half of the fight. Amelia was low, and I was low on blood vials, so I went into my menu and quick times drank the blood for Ariana, hoping it would give me the edge to come out on top in this fight, and that's exactly what it did. I'd like to think the extra stamina regeneration is what saved me, but who knows. With one vial left and a dream, I channeled all of my energy into face tanking slightly less hits than I had been the entire time, and Amelia goes down on the first try. Vicar? I hardly know her. The gold pendant was mine, and I touched the totally not evil-looking skull. Oh, fear the old blood. That's the password, not boobies. Got it. Whore's blood, pog. Old blood, not pog. Understand? Back in the Hunter's Dream, I was excited to tell Ms. Doll of my achievements, but she was sleeping, and I had to wake her up. Interesting. Maybe things are not all as they seem in the Hunter's Dream. Anyway, I was given the eye of the blood-drunk hunter, but don't worry, we have a ways to go before the DLC. A hunter must hunt. I got more tasty blood, ran into Brad Pitt from Troy, and then gave the password at the door. Fear the old blood, my man. I went to dap him up, but he died by the time I got inside. I took a long staircase down, and at the bottom I was spit out in the Forbidden Woods. 3 spooky 5 me. I used my monocular to spot a lantern in the distance, and I ran for my life to grab it, in preparation for what I could only assume was going to be a very treacherous journey through the forest. The 100-acre wood hasn't been the same since Christopher Robin left for college, and it took me all of 10 seconds to get brutalized by a trap. And I'm embarrassed because now looking at it, it looks like the most obvious trap thing ever. Classic. I started trying to incorporate my trick weapon switches into combos, and I think that might be just the coolest thing ever. Really surprised that trick weapons never made a return in any of the other games. And a scary forest wouldn't be complete without obnoxious dogs trying to rip my face off. I took out the guys throwing oil, as if I'm dumb enough to light myself on fire, but apparently I am dumb enough to spend 4.5 minutes seeing if I can set off a trap with a pebble. I talked to a stranger through the busted wall in a building, and to be honest, it sounded a little bit like Patches. I sure hope I don't get pushed off a ledge later. He also gave me a tonsil stone? I offed a bunch of dogs before they had the chance to escape the pound, and then killed Lovecraftian horror Santa Claus. Get that sack out of my face, bro. And then I tore my way through firebomb lobbing foes and noticed that the Gulf oil spill made its way to Yarnum. Anyone got some Dawn dish soap? I found some conveniently placed Molotovs and thought it would be an awesome idea to set blaze to the enemies that lay in the oil below, and it would have been an awesome idea had I not fallen in myself. I found a shortcut back to the town center, but thought it would be more fun to bob and weave through the cannon fire as the local residents did their annual Civil War reenactment. And I almost made it to the other side of the battlefield, but there were just one too many hairy guys standing in my way. On my way back, I fell for a classic pitfall trap and almost got torn apart by Ornifex's second cousins, and after trimming down her family tree, I made my way across the battlefield and took out the jokester that was manning the cannon. I let off a shot of my own in celebration, and if only this was like Halo, I could rip off the cannon and aura walk around with it through the rest of the level. That'd be awesome. I finally found a use for my hand lantern and ran into what might be the most upsetting enemy so far. It's like Gwendolyn, but upside down, with the snakes coming out of the neck instead of the feet. What in the Resident Evil 4 is going on in the Forbidden Woods? Hey, snake it easy, will ya? Don't want to get hysterical. That's my best Leon impression. I'm not that quippy. A fun elevator led me up to the dwelling of an old-timey war general named Walter. Lucky for me, he let me join the League. And even luckier for me, there was a door here that led back to the first lamp of the area. Top 10 From Software shortcuts of all time. The lower half of the woods, deeply upsetting. I had to kill many snakes that took on many forms. There were small balls of snakes. There were guys with the snakes coming out of their neck. There were big balls of snakes that spit poison at me. I mean, I guess it's not that many, it's just really the 3 kinds, but each one was just as upsetting as the last. The hunter's axe made quick work of my foes and gave me meaning to life. I spin, therefore I am. A hunter must hunt? No. A bozo who picks the axe must R2. And I am that bozo. I panic ran through more of the forest and found some strange little blue alien dudes. This game just keeps getting stranger and stranger. I didn't want to interrupt their huddle to contact the mothership, so I left Paul and the rest of his pals in my wake as I ran quickly past them. The snakehead assholes appeared to be worse than I thought, as I soon learned that they can summon snake balls themselves. Very awesome. And also a good time to mention that I love the jump attack of this axe. I spam it almost as much as the spin. I picked up some sick drip, ventured deeper into the bush, found out what happens when you give a pig a pancake, and then unlocked a shortcut back to a slightly less upsetting part of the area. I kept going further though and noticed that this area is definitely a boss arena, and I had 42,000 echoes that I really didn't want to lose. So I ran all the way back to the lamp and to the Hunter's Dream to ensure I had nothing to worry about in the upcoming encounter. When I got back, it was time for my first gank fight, the Shadows of Yharnam. 3 Shadows of Yharnam to be exact. A fair fight if you ask me. Each of the shadows had their own attack strategy. There was Sammy Scimitar, who loved to jump at me with his melee attacks. Very parryable. Sorry Sammy, but you suck. Then there was Michael Mace, who didn't really care to engage in melee combat and instead sat there like a chicken on the outskirts of the arena while lobbing fireballs at my face. You're just a big chicken, Michael. And then we have Arsonist Andy. He does have a katana, but I swear every time my back's to him, he loves to whip out a flamethrower and never let go of the trigger. Sammy got parried every chance I got, and you can't tell me that the Bloodborne visceral sound isn't the same as when you get a drop in COD Zombies. Got me like, max ammo. Insta-kill. Carpenter! Anyway, I was pretty much splitting damage across anyone who was in my immediate vicinity and taking a running R1 when it was absolutely safe to do so. But before I knew it, the shadows were changing. Like their clothes, they all got fashionable snakeskin vests. Phase 2 came with some buffs, such as more aggressive fireball spamming from Michael, Andy's katana was now on fire, and Sammy, well, you know, he was doing his best. And sometimes your best is enough, and in all the confusion of the phase transition, I got melted before I really knew what happened. This time, I decided to focus all my attention on one shadow and parried Sammy into oblivion. See, they all have their own health bars, but it turns out the phase transition is on a shared health pool, because once I got him low, it was snakes and fire and me running for my life once again. With the last 2 both having ranged attacks, I was running around like a madman, taking pokes whenever I could. Chip and chase, boys. I may have gotten a bit greedy, and the result was my health bar going from full to 0 in a split second as an off-screen Andy shot fire up my ass. Focusing one at a time seemed to work better, and attempt number 3 went the same, focusing all my energy into taking out the melee fighter first. Then it was all hands on deck to kill Michael and his giant hot balls. Once the extreme range was taken care of, it would be smooth sailing. Or so I thought. Because once it was down to a 1v1, there was a secret phase 3 that I was wildly unprepared for. Andy wasn't Andy anymore. He was Mesmer. The big snake attack in Elden Ring was so popular they brought it to Bloodborne? But it was worse, because if I'm gonna be honest, I'm not sure this one's dodgeable. I was panicked, and while I had a decent amount of blood vials left, I was getting smacked by big snakes left, right, and center and chugging blood vials like my name was Strahd von Zarevich. I changed my approach and laid on the aggression. He had to summon the snake, and maybe, just maybe, if I was fast enough, I could interrupt it. And that's exactly what I tried to do. Miyazaki shined his face upon this attempt, and I was able to get the boss in some sort of weird AI loop, and with some well-timed running R1s, the Shadows of Yharnam go down on try number 3. I went back to the Hunter's Dream and celebrated by doing a chalice dungeon. It wasn't all too interesting, and I made it through without a single death, and at the end of it all, I had to fight Tricephalos from Night Rain. Hate that guy. Cool design, though. Back to the woods, I pressed on from the Shadows of Yharnam and got sucked by something even more unfortunate than the snake guys. From snakes to bugs. Can it get any worse from here? Of course it can, because we finally made it to Byrgenwerth. What a goofy name, just a silly little place full of a bunch of silly little guys that want to eat my face off and I guess burp on me with magic. Not sure, but that guy sounds like he's choking. Can we get someone CPR certified in here? I feel like half of this game is the developers just looking at various amoeba under a microscope and blowing it up a million times and saying, that is our enemy. Because what the hell is this thing? I let myself into a library, a research lab, no idea, but I found another NPC, and let's just say this lady makes Machine Gun Kelly back in Yharnam look like a toddler with a Nerf gun. Why are NPC fights in this game so hard? Who did this? What did I do to deserve this? Luckily for me, she doesn't know how to climb ladders, and Damien was perfect fodder to distract them all while I ran up to pillage the upper floors. Not sure if mashing reduces grab damage in Bloodborne, but you bet your sweet cheeks I'm mashing these buttons as fast as I can every single time. I got laid out once more and decided that bringing an NPC along to kill an NPC was absolutely fair game, so I summoned Damien once more and we cheesed the heck out of the lady. Nothing like a little magic melee wombo combo from the fiercest duo in Byrgenwerth, Damien and Burdette. Nice work, bud. I used my key to open the door and saw Granny rockin' on the patio, and she told me to take a long walk off a short pier. Whatever you say, Granny. I charged headfirst into the water and landed in the Moonside Lake, face to mandibles, with Rom, the vacuous spider. I had to Google vacuous because of my vacuousness. See, it's funny because vacuous means lack of intelligence. Anyway, woo, another spider boss that summons some heckin' spider ads. The itsy bitsy spider gets summoned for the fight. I charge up my axe and spin with all my might. I ignore the ads and smack the spider rom, but joke's on me 'cause they all defend their mom. The little spiders and Rom both have heads that act as shields that block most of my damage, because of course they do. And it turns out if you jump off a bridge, your friends will surely do it too, as Damien made the plunge into the Moonside Lake. So let's call this first attempt not a loss, but a strategic, let's get the NPC out of the boss fight reset. On my second try, I attempted to use the pungent blood cocktail to distract some ads and get them away from their big spider mother, but it was no use. This was going to be a battle of attrition, and I wasn't sure how important it was going to be to kill the ads and do some crowd control. I assumed it was a Duke's Dear Freya type situation, and there were just going to be an endless wave of spiders going to defend Charlotte. Dash in, get a hit, get greedy for another hit, and then run out while fearing for my life. And then Rom teleported across the arena and summoned a new group of ads. Maybe it was going to be necessary to take them out, because between that and Rom's new ranged magic attacks, I had my work cut out for me. I thought this spider was vacuous. I thought it had a low IQ, and now it's here casting sorceries? Some double standards there from software. The next try, I decided to go all out on attacking Rom. Yes, I know I just said that it would probably be a good idea to take out the ads, but shut up. Rom was taking it hard from all sides, showing me the new arsenal of moves that I actually had to try and avoid. No more flopping around and just taking it seems. It was a painfully slow fight, and between the magic spam and creepy crawlies blocking my path, the openings to hit Rom were few and far between. She hit another TP and summoned even more spiders, and I was starting to regret keeping the ads alive once again. It was an army, a whole platoon of spiders marching at me one by one. Hurrah. I know it's usually ants, but I think it still fits. There were so many spiders, in fact, that they started crawling in 12 FPS Miles Morales style. Definitely a stylistic choice and not a hardware limitation. I was being decently patient, and Rom was getting lower and lower, and before long I got her health bar down to the "Are you kidding me?" That's embarrassing. Try number 4 was when I decided to stop being so vacuous and take out all the spider ads one by one. No mini spiders makes Rom a free boss. All I would have to do is watch out for the magic spam, and that's exactly how it went. With each new TP, I would spend a few minutes painstakingly taking out all of the spiders around, so it was just me and the alpha arachnid. And I realized this should have been my strategy all along. After the third TP, I cut down all the spiders except for one, for 2 reasons. 1, I wasn't sure if after killing all the spiders, Rom would unlock a secret new move, or if a new horde of spiders would be summoned. And 2, I wanted it to watch. Say your prayers, Rom, and I pray that I never have to slaughter this thing ever again. I ran towards a weeping woman in the water, and some lore that I read suggests the moon turns red when she gives birth?
The red moon rises once again, Link.
I had a sneaking suspicion that I was supposed to seek the nightmare newborn. And from this point, I would consistently hear the cry of a baby that would slowly drive me insane. But Yahar Gum Unseen Village welcomed me with open arms and the soft glow of a lamp. I was wandering around and noticed a little vortex, and I ran into it so Josh Groban could raise me up to be more than I could be. Oh, amygdala, please, be gentle. This truly is a horror game because I was thrust back into one of my worst nightmares. University. And a strange man who sounded like Patches took away my bursary, so I had no choice but to find a way to drop out. Just like in real life, baby. I sat in on one lecture and got some drip, but not good drip, and I opened the main door only to get once again warped against my will, this time to the nightmare frontier. Saddle up, cowboy. Enemies were just a wee bit tankier in this part of the game, and I attempted some parkour, only to end up like Buzz Lightyear after he found out he was, in fact, a toy. The beasts of the frontier tried to deter me from my exploration, but nothing a good spinaroo can't take care of. But then my worst fears were made a reality. NPC hunters. Oh, maybe not actual NPCs, but super tanky enemies that look like they hunt in their spare time. My axe is faster than yours, idiot. I made it to the abominable snowmen, and they are much less friendly than any piece of media I've ever seen. No bumble bounce, no lemon snow cones, just death. I made it through the gauntlet and up the mountain before breaking off a piece for a shortcut, and then I realized I had more echoes than How's Caverns, so I went back to the birdbath shop to buy some more blood. I picked up a couple more runes from Carol and killed a group of squid monsters. I don't know, man. The enemy design in this game is phenomenal because each and every one of them just makes me nauseous. Regardless, it was time to dip my toe into Miyazaki's fun swamp, the Poison Swamp. Luckily for me, holding sprint made it not too bad. I heard some eerie singing close by and decided that scary-sounding enemies, much like poison swamps, are designed to just be run past. So that's what I did. I felt the effects of frenzy before making a series of unfortunate events, but lucky for me, I kept an antidote abreast and was able to make it out the other side with my life intact. I thought I was in the clear, but then I was confronted by Estelle Jr., Amygdala. Really cool design. It's like the worst possible combination between a xenomorph and a walnut. And I had a very big complaint with this boss. The fact that it's very big. I wanted to lock on and use my dashes and stay close, but the boss moving around and the big sweeps of the arm made the camera go absolutely haywire. I did notice that there was a lot of end lag on attacks and the walnut was wide open, just waiting to get cracked. It was my personal duty to crack this nut. I got a stagger and a visceral, and let's just say Amy was not pleased. The running slash on the axe was perfect for reaching up high, and the damage was looking good. I was feeling it, dodging the lasers, playing it safe, getting a punish in when I could, until of course I got greedy and tried going in for punishes where the windows weren't big enough, and when the punish windows were there, I was failing to dodge the attack. I got her low, and in a fit of rage, she ripped her arms off and sprouted wings of blood. Jujutsu Kaisen mentioned. I was so caught off guard that the boss started using their own arms as weapons that it was just too much for me as little Hunter, and I went down to a jump attack that brought me from full health to 0. All at once. Gotta love counter damage. On my way back to the boss, I noticed a shiny little path and got myself thrown off a cliff. Are you kidding me? Patches is a spider? Joke's on him though, I had to go through the poison swamp anyway to duke it out with Amygdala once again, so just a hop, skip, and a jump and I'm back to the boss. Try number 2 was immaculate, no notes. I had good spacing, punished the big openings, and cracked the walnut. Phase 2 didn't scare me as much. I was dodging lasers like I was auditioning to be on Danny Ocean's team, and the jump attacks that once brought me to my knees were easily dodged. I still took a bit of a beating, but let's just say I am the champion for people with trypophobia. I panicked a little bit and struggled at the end to find my big damage openings, but chip damage is still damage, and if the health bar moves, it can die. Amygdala, more like Amygdala. Got him. Back to where I got kidnapped in the first place, Raj Al Ghul's unseen village, I was really hoping I wouldn't have to go toe-to-toe with the Amygdalas taunting me in the background. I have 2 complaints about this area. 1, the bell ladies who constantly spawn enemies. I hate you. You can go eat and die. 2, I have no idea if it was an audio bug on my part, but the bloodied enemies that the bell lady spawns are about twice as loud in their death animations as a normal enemy. I'm talking 20 decibels louder, easy. Not very good on the ears. I'm talking Lost Izalith lava levels of eardrum pain. No thank you. Actually, there's 3 things, this balcony in particular. What if the enemies just didn't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and they don't stop coming, and then you also have to dodge explosive orbital lasers via the local walnut. Not cool. More hackin', slashin', and attackin', I found the biggest blue ball in Bloodborne, the broken lantern. Just let me fix it. Just let me fix it. And if that wasn't bad enough, oh boy, it's time to fight some more NPCs, except this time, there's 3 of them. I swear, I have been killed by NPCs more times than bosses up until this point. Why are they so hard? Why are they so tanky? I decided it was in my best interest to just run and not look back. I was being a nice guy and sparing my enemy. Too bad they were too dense to appreciate the gesture. I ran my little Hunter Heine into a room with a teleporter? That's interesting, but I didn't really care for where it put me out, so I took it back immediately. I dropped down a ladder with style, definitely on purpose, definitely not panicking, and after a little more running, I made my way to what looked like a boss arena. I got cutscened. Is it just me, or is the moon looking a little hot tonight? What a presence. The moon's water broke right above my head, and out came an abomination of a child. The one reborn made my eyes bleed. It was fright at first sight. What in the Tower Night was going on here? I was so distracted by the boss whispering sweet nothings into my ear that I didn't notice the ladies up above hurling magic at me down below. I ran around the arena looking for a way up, and lucky for me, they're all pretty weak. Yeah, I played Demon Souls before. I'm kind of a professional. With all the cringe casters up above taken out, it was time for me to go back down and start hacking away at this abomination of a boss. I was caught in the offensive blob of limbs and I couldn't tell if I was being punched or kicked, but the melee attacks followed by projectiles had me on my toes. My damage wasn't too terrible, but it did kind of feel like my axe was losing effectiveness, and as I was slashing away, this baby decided to spit up all over the arena, and before I could process what was happening, my health was reduced to 0 and I was sent packing back to the lamp. On my way back to the boss, I decided to go a different route in hopes that the NPCs wouldn't follow me this time, and unfortunately, I got lost. I saw an NPC summon sign close, and I decided to bring him along for the journey of clearing out the next area. Unfortunately, it happened to be a boss, so I had to pop a warning shot to send him home. Unfortunately for me, Dark Beast Parl already saw me pulling up with a buddy and decided to keep his extra health and resistances for my solo fight. That's pretty neat, and might I just say, this boss was one of the most unfortunate camera bosses of all time. Pikachu here is an extremely fast boss in a decently small arena, and sure, he likes to aura walk every now and then and give a gingerly swipe of the arm, but when his combos get going, it feels like everything is out to get me. It feels like his one and only personal goal is to make sure I can't see my character. The slams that shake up debris, the lighting effects, the running back and forth in my camera trying to keep up with lock-on, it felt like I was playing Kingdom Hearts again. I got a stagger, and Parl was lightninged out at least for a moment, but he has quite the short refractory period, and he was rejuiced and ready to go with another 40,000 volts. I was pinned against a rock, fighting for my life, getting hit by combos, and I swear it must have been just a little cold out because I felt like my axe wasn't as long as it once was. I fell to the lingering lightning of the Dark Beast, but decided I needed my swift revenge. I sprinted back to the arena, and this time I meant business, and turned out, when you don't bring a buddy with you, you do about twice as much damage. Isn't that interesting? This time I used From Software's patent strategy of staying in the crotch. I was hitting Parl right in the pearls, and it was much easier to dodge his attacks when I wasn't in the range of the residual lightning. I still took some smacks to the face, and I don't think I got much better at the fight, but this time, without his double health and resistances, I didn't have to be locked in for quite as long. I finished off the beast with a visceral, and it was absolutely electrifying, but I still hated that fight. I wandered beyond the arena and opened maybe the most useless shortcut in the entire game, but hey, that's showbiz, baby. It was back to the village of Milford men, neither seen nor heard, and I marched right back to the one reborn. It was time to send this baby back to the tomb. I took out the ladies once again and tried to execute a sick plunge attack, and while it looked cool, it wasn't really worth it, and I was sent back to reflect upon my mistakes. Once I stopped playing like I was reborn yesterday, the fight went a lot smoother. I stopped getting caught in the leg-arm things, and I waited until it was my turn to attack. Now, I'll be real, I still go through an obscene amount of blood vials in every fight because I still can't break these damn habits from the other FromSoft games. They are hindering me as a hunter, and I'm still not effectively using the rally system this late in the game. I mean, it's probably a good thing too. I don't want to make it look too easy now. I ended the fight with a classic spin to win, and I turned the one reborn into one really torn. I approached a body and touched it against my better judgment and was warped once again to the lecture hall, except this time upstairs. I carefully made my way through the rooms, watching out for anyone who wanted to give me head from above, but once again I was bamboozled. Hello class, please sit down. I'm your guest lecturer. Today's lesson plan is to... That's right, sit and melt in your chairs. And then we'll, hunt some great ones. Sound fun? Moon presence, third chords, so much lore, so much knowledge. Such a shame that the school lost funding, though. Someone must have needed a private jet. I found the ladder that connected me back to the lower level, and it was time to give Spider Patches a piece of my mind. Now, I was planning to let it slide, but the granola bar that I was munching on decided to slip out of my hand, and I accidentally gave Patches a warning shot. Good thing NPCs are a bit more forgiving in Bloodborne, or I would have had to squash him. Water under the bridge, good buddy. Back up top, I schooled some more flubber folks and then opened a door, and this time I was warped to the nightmare of Mensis. I climbed the hill and met up with Parl's cousins, who were just as electrifying, and shocked me even more with the worms that exploded from their carcass. I went after another blood barnacle, and it was so determined to keep the loot to itself that it jumped off the cliff, killing my dream of sweet upgrades along with itself. Just beyond the crest of the hill, I started getting harpooned with what I can only imagine is solid blood. Katara's really going crazy these days. This is exactly how I imagine bloodbending would have looked in the M. Night Shyamalan version of Avatar: The Last Airbender. Good thing there was a lamp close by though, and I could pop in and see my waifu before chaos ensued. Back in the dream, I also noticed an open window in the workshop that led me to a second bird bath shop, where I can purchase things with my insight. I was wondering what that number was. I pride myself in being simultaneously the best and worst gamer that you have ever seen. I was pleasantly surprised that the enemies got pooned too, and just like any other intense part of the game, my strategy was simple. Just run. That is, until I got backhanded by a torch. So much health, and for what? But the next time, I ran and didn't fight a single thing just as Miyazaki intended, and I made it all the way to the front door of a manor where I found myself in a sticky situation. I used pebbles that I had collected thus far to aggro the spiders hanging from the ceiling one at a time, and luckily for me, it worked like a charm. Well, maybe just for the first spider. As soon as I got in range to hit the next spider with a pebble, all of them dropped down and launched a not-so-sneaky sneak attack. The big spider was too fat to fit through the door that I was hiding beyond, but it parted the Red Sea to let the little ones through. I hate when they work together towards a common goal. I picked up a shaman bone blade, which sounded like a very peculiar item in this game, and I continued my way through the spider-infested haunted house. Oh boy, more NPCs. You can take me back to the spiders, please. Honestly, just give me another ROM to fight. I would gladly rather do that than fight more NPCs in this game. Luckily, I parried the pants off of this guy, but I was not excited for what was waiting for me inside. Not sure what to call these things, but their feet slapped against the cold stone of the ground, and it made it sound like I was watching March of the Penguins. Where's Morgan Freeman to narrate this section when you need him? I can't do Morgan Freeman. The hunter throws rocks at the stocky barefoot foe, noticing its reserved nature, as if the hostility was only in an act of self-defense. The hunter pressed onward, deciding not to attack the rest of the herd. Once the leader is engaged in combat, though, all of the lesser enemies go in for the kill, hoping that in numbers victory shall be achieved. And if that wasn't bad enough, it turns out Mensis and Sid have something in common. If the dogs and birds in this game weren't atrocities enough on their own, why don't we mutilate their bodies and swap their heads? That's right, up in the cages we have a nice flock of dirds, and patrolling the grounds looking for worms, or maybe murder, we have bogs. What a lovely game. This entire mansion needs to be burned to the ground. I ran my ass inside as fast as I could and had to fight some puppet ghosts? What is this, Lies of P? The marionettes were no match for my axe, except for when they slowly drifted to the side, but luckily my resolve was much stronger than theirs, and I was cutscened once again. Holy, this guy sounds like a loser. Sure hope he doesn't moan in my ear for the next half an hour. Mikolash might just dethrone Rom for the worst boss in the game for the moaning alone. The host of this nightmare was not a gracious one and decided to run away from me as soon as the fight began. I followed him, cleaning up puppets as I went, got confused as to what direction I came from, but followed the moaning until I caught him in a room all alone. More or less. Another heckin' NPC fight, and my first attempt was going okay until I got tentacle parried and then smacked around by Mikolash's bad dragon. Round 2, seeing as how it seemed to be a chase, I decided to use that weird bone dagger on him. I'm not sure if he can lose his sense of direction being an NPC and all, but hey, might as well try. I got him in the room pretty quick once again and played very cautiously, taking out the puppets when he spawned them and trying to get him stuck in a loop of running R1s, much like the Shadow of Yharnam. I was doing pretty well and luckily survived getting parried this time, and the hunt ensued once I got him below half HP. I ran around through his sick twisted maze and followed him to a mirror that he jumped through. What a coward. He wouldn't let me come after him, so I was just gonna have to come before him. I found him in the maze once again, and this time I hit a sick plunge attack on him as we both fell from a balcony, but he pulled another cringe move and blocked me off, so I was gonna have to find another way in. I found a spot to plunge from, and it was time for the cage match of the century. Mikolash versus Granny, Axe versus Suction Cup. This loser's nightmare was about to end because his sleep paralysis demon just arrived. He now had access to some cringe AoE magic attacks, and I was doing my best to avoid them while also pinning him in a corner. I was able to get a good few hits in before I had to back off. He was easily staggered out of the magic attacks, and as long as I was patient, I wouldn't get sucked by a tentacle again. And after way too much running, moaning, and slashing, Mikolash wakes up. And then dies. I was awarded the Mensis cage and put it on cause holy drip, and then I carried on, roaming the halls that seemed all too quiet. I traveled the path of the dirds and bogs, crying a bit as I put them down, and then I found an elevator that led me back to the start of the area. And on my way back up, I noticed a little window that you could totally roll into. You can totally roll into, I swear you can roll into the window. It was another bridge of blood harpoons and mind flayers with really keen eyesight, and my first attempt at a pass drove me mad. Like, with frenzy. I died of frenzy. But the second time I made it all the way and operated a device, and much like the upper tower of Latria in Demon Souls, sent a giant blob monster plummeting to its death. Back to the mansion's exterior, I got a rematch with the Shadows of Yharnam. Guys, we're officially at the point in the game where previous bosses are this area's enemies. Absolute cinema. And much better placed than Dark Souls 1. I also got into a pretty brutal fight with a really upsetting looking pig. Get it? That's pig with a lot of eyes. Anyway, a few more chunks from a blood barnacle, more shadows slain, the moon was looking absolutely ravishing, and I made it to the top of the manor. I saw the same lady who was there after defeating Rom, and she did not look too happy. She actually looked very sad, like she was crying, and quite bloody. Almost as if she got into a fight with her doula or something. I congratulated her on becoming a mother, and then carried on up to where the crying came from, before I was stopped in my tracks by Murgo's wet nurse. I'm not too sure if this lady looks qualified to be taking care of a newborn. Those look very sharp. And here it is, the theme that we heard in Yarnum from Gascoigne's daughter. The song in the music box was the same song used to soothe Murgo. I mean, hey, baby stopped crying ever since the fight started and the music played, so. Murgo has some very flashy attacks, but seems to be open from the backside quite a bit. No, I wasn't playing reckless and greedy, I was just setting myself up to take advantage of the rally system. Duh. Oh, never mind. Okay, the baby is still crying. Lady, can you do your job, please? For some reason, I was having a lot of trouble telling which attacks were coming, so instead of dodging them, I took them all to the face so that I could maybe learn them better. I was doing an okay job to get behind her, but my attacks didn't always land. The Aura Walk super slash move that she does was always good for gaining an upper hand on positioning. I just didn't always do it because I'm dumb and slash equals scary. And then phase 2 hit. At around 75 HP, she made the arena dark and scary and summoned a clone. It is a clone with 1 HP, but it's actually not just one clone. It's a new clone every time she attacks. She attacks, clone attacks, and usually from off screen. I did not make it very far in phase 2. I decided to do a bit of farming around Yarnum, got some drugs from Granny, and then found out that Ariana had a baby in the sewers. How sweet and not completely disgusting. Back in the Hunter's Dream, I also used my brain for once and explored the other tabs of the Bird Bath shop and purchased the Kirk Hammer and Ludwig's Holy Blade. The nurse continued to swing blades like a hooligan, and I was doing a pretty good job at finding my openings when it was just one nurse, but after Code Blue was called and it was all hands on deck in the darkness, I was getting my salad tossed non-stop like I was hitting up an Olive Garden at 3 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was using fire paper. I was using electric paper. Sometimes I would get a stagger and prevent the spooky phase from happening altogether, but as soon as the nurse was below 75% HP and I was getting double teamed, I was not long for this world. I did more blood vial farming around the neighborhood and decided it might be a good idea to check in with the girl that I told about the church. She wasn't there, and her sister told me that she ran out and went missing. Oops. I fear I might have sent her to her death. Okay, I'm fairly certain I sent her to her death. You know what? My bad. I gave the ribbon back to her older sister and, well, at least she has that. After about 10 or so tries of getting filleted from top to taint, I decided to try and use a blue elixir to hide from the duo boss in the darkness, but it did not prove to be useful. I then discovered a foolproof strategy to get past the Dark Souls 3 phase of this fight, and that was to just keep running along the outskirts of the arena. They can't kill what they can't catch. Luckily for me, this phase seemed to be on a timer and not a damage requirement, so I would just keep running in circles, praying I didn't get caught for about a minute. And then after the lights came back on, I was free to keep wailing on the wet nurse's backside. If I had been smarter and just did the running strategy from the beginning, I might have held on to a bit more of my sanity, but oh well, you always need a roadblock or two, that's what makes it fun. I'm gonna call this 12 attempts. I don't know exactly how many it was, and I'm too lazy to go check, so you can watch the VOD. There was a long pause after the last smack on Murgo's wet nurse, and I was very scared there was gonna be an extra phase, but thankfully, after a nail-biter pause, I was greeted with a lamp, and also given 1/3 of umbilical cord. My favorite, how did you know? I went back to the Hunter's Dream and the workshop was on fire. The doll was standing there suspiciously like she had committed arson, but I can't stay mad at her. She told me that dawn was coming and that Gehrman was waiting for me by the tree, but I didn't have time for that right now. I upgraded my holy blade. Axe, it's been a journey, and I appreciate you for getting me this far, but when a strength user sees a cool greatsword, you know what has to be done. I will cherish every spin we spun together. I went back to the lady that was crying in front of the wet nurse arena, and she gave me a bow and disappeared like a force ghost. Back in Cathedral Ward, Granny went out to score me some more drugs, and I started showing everyone my cool new sword. With my hub world changing, I had a feeling that I was nearing the end of the base game, so I decided to double back and re-explore areas that I felt like I hadn't sufficiently explored, starting with the woods. I wandered up from the shadows of Yarnum Lamp, made my way through the water, and fisted my first pig. Chat really liked that one. Weirdos. One more victory blast of the heavy artillery, and then it was back to scouring the town for new paths, and eventually I did find one just beyond the dog crates, leading me to Poison Swamp number 2. This place wasn't too exciting, and honestly the worms might be more annoying than the dogs, but I found a ladder that led me back to Yharnam. It always feels so cozy coming back to Yharnam after being stuck in a place where things want to rip your face off. I climbed up the rooftops and prepared for a gargoyles fight, but it was just birds, and I found a way inside through a window. Aliens had infiltrated the clinic, and it was my job to take them down. I got some blood and opened a door that was maybe the shortcut of all time that led all the way back to the beginning of the game. I picked up the Canehurst summons, found a poor alien that was getting experimented on, got another rune from Carol, and then found a lady who was... I will not pick the low-hanging fruit. I will not pick the low-hanging fruit. She was clearly going through some internal turmoil, and I mean that literally. God gives his roughest tummy aches to his strongest soldiers. And we also get our first NPC with no shoes on. But, good luck with your brain eyeballs, lady. The summons looked rather interesting, and I was determined to find the coach that left from Hemwick Crossing. I did remember something that Patches said earlier about taking a path to the side of the church where we fight Vicar Amelia, and one of those paths just led back to Amygdala, but the other path led to some woods, and the worst dogs in the game. I decided to use my thinking cap for once though, and dogs aren't actually as bad in Bloodborne if you just shoot them first and then go clean up the job while they're trying to recover. Works like a charm. I kept going until I found a gate that led me to Hemwick Charnel Lane. I got a feeling I was getting pretty close to my pickup spot, and in a place like this, I bet they start running the meter while they're waiting. It appeared to be a joyous town with singing and dancing, but call me Mayor Dooley, cause I was here to put an end to that. I'm not really sure when I was supposed to come to Hemwick Charnel Lane, but it's always fun to come back to an area when you're sufficiently overleveled. A slope ate my parry and I took a cinder block to the face, but I got my revenge and then explored inside. Down, boy. This is a horror game. I'm like British Batman, making my way across the rooftops in the nighttime, taking out my foes, and I unlocked a shortcut that led me back to the area I was in prior. And I couldn't help but notice that this place looked a lot like a crossroads. With no carriage in sight, I kept going forward in the area until I came face to face with another boss. The Witch of Hemwick. Look, lady, I'm just trying to catch my Uber. The witch was invisible and spawned a Timu cemetery shade from Elden Ring. So cool to see how things evolve. Cemetery shade plus spirit collar snail. Color me impressed. I definitely felt overleveled for this area because as soon as the witch showed herself, I went over and took about a third of her health with 3 swings of the Holy Blade. I'm sure I was supposed to not notice it due to fearing the other enemy, or maybe it was a glitch or something, but when she teleported, she revealed herself before cloaking again, and I immediately beelined it to her and ignored the other foe in the arena. I got her low and she summoned 2 more shadows, but if there's anything I've learned from these games, it's that ads die when the boss dies, so it was time to get that health bar down. I killed the first witch, but it was far from over apparently because a second witch had hit the Hemwick. I found out they had a move to immobilize me, and I probably should have been more cautious, but on the other hand, I felt like this was probably the pinwheel of Bloodborne. As I got the second witch low, she healed the first one, and now I was dealing with twitches, just like the 2005 hit Disney movie starring Tia and Tamara Mowry. The twin witches did not pose much of a threat, and I face-tanked the attacks from their protectors in favor of just killing the boss. And I spammed R1 to victory. I opened the door to the workshop and finally got the tool I needed to equip the runes from Carol. Basking in my new power, I had the feeling that maybe I should have been here just a wee bit earlier. I went back to what I could only assume was the crossroads and started hacking and slashing enemies until finally I got cutscened. My Uber had arrived and I was traveling in style. From the streets of London to the slopes of Chamonix, I was taking in all the beauty that Europe had to offer. The horses croaked along the way, but at least I was able to arrive safely at Canehurst Castle, summons intact. This must be a party castle because these statues have exposed boobies. Too bad this was a shortcut for later, and for now I had to kill these weird pot-belly looking mosquito things. I sure hope I don't contract a blood-borne disease. They cracked the front door for me, and the entrance hall was full of a bunch of ladies crying and scrubbing the floors. But you let your guard down for one moment to try to be nice, and all of a sudden the banshees from New Londo Ruins sneak up from behind you. Except these designs are way cooler, and I don't need to pop a consumable to hit them. They can even be parried. Who needs Ghostbusters when you have Granny Burdette? The architecture and level design of Canehurst was really cool, but if I'm gonna be honest, all the fights were like, oh, it's a room full of banshees, and then, oh, it's another room full of banshees. Let's do a little jaunt outside and there's a vampire spawn who really wants to suck you, and then we go back in and oh, it's another room full of banshees, except these ones scream a little bit and hurt your ears. It wasn't too long before I found the booby shortcut that led to where I initially came in, but I was determined to keep tearing my way through the castle. The next area reminded me of the Duke's Archives, or the Grand Library, and you guessed it, more banshees. Please, please, one at a time, ladies. There is plenty of me to go around. I found some insane drip and had to throw it on right away, and then I absolutely Orlando'd it to open a bookcase and find a shortcut for later. I made my way up a rooftop, and in fear that this could be a boss arena, I went back to the Hunter's Dream to secure my 52,000 echoes. The rooftop I was scared about was not a boss fight, but after some rooftop parkour and rafter adventures, I did end up finding a boss fight on a roof. Martyr Ligarius. Bro walked at me with more aura than I had ever seen up until this point. Dude had a 6 scythe but couldn't stop spamming his magic. He was a dark bead spammer. Except instead of dark bead, it was little red skulls that could follow me behind corners. I was doing my best to try and get close and have him switch to melee, but this guy loved casting his little spells. Every time I would get close to take a swing, he would immediately backstep and start slinging those skulls with no downtime in between. He staggered fairly easily and I was able to interrupt some of the casting, and once I got his health down, he charged up the world's slowest AoE, and it was time for the melee fighting. I got a huge stagger and visceral to follow up, and it was much easier to stay in close and keep the pressure on when he was in melee mode instead of trying to give me head. Casting the heads, the skulls. He pulled a move out of the fairy godmother's arsenal and hit me with a bippity boppity boo, but instead of a new dress and carriage, there were swords raining from the sky in all different directions. I started to panic, using the pillars around the arena to my advantage, but with Ligarius in melee mode, he was also putting on the pressure, and anytime I stuck my little head out, I was turned into a pincushion. The fight was getting intense, and in some ways I was getting a hang of the timings, but with everything going on, I'd lost my bearings. I was getting ripped apart by Ligarius and the flying swords, and I was dodging rapidly to create space to heal, and I fell right off the roof. The smallest chunk of a health bar between me and greatness. My second attempt ended with one of the most ridiculous hitboxes I had ever seen, but on try number 3, I was locked in. I got Mr. Martyr low and noticed something strange. He plunges his sword into the ground to create the torrential rainstorm of metal, but he also leaves it there. I had a feeling I could hit it. I ran up and gave the sword a tap. The weather cleared up and I was free to wail on Ligarius to my heart's content without the fear of getting turned into a porcupine against my will. With the biggest hurdle overcome, the boss didn't feel like that much of a threat anymore. I kept on the pressure and slaughtered my prey on the rooftop of Canehurst Castle. I was awarded the Crown of Illusions and put it on to reveal a whole-ass other house on top of this house. The architect of this place really went crazy. I met Annalise, the Queen of Canehurst, and I pledged my allegiance to her. I know I'm supposed to fear the old blood, but I'm not sure if this is the old blood because she's old, or if the old blood was like a church thing. Either way, I doubt it matters too much. After conquering Canehurst, I was once again wandering around the base game looking for other things to clean up, and I was in the unseen village when I found a key. The upper cathedral key, to be exact. The key that unlocked the room at the top of the tower that was back in Cathedral Ward. Now, we're getting somewhere. I killed the ankle biter and started exploring the area. You know you're getting into the end game when the birds start to get a lot more health. I found Lake Ontario just past a group of dismembered fetuses and got parry-blocked by a campfire because, of course I did. The inside of wherever I was had me screaming for my life as these tentacle monsters started feeding on my insight. The hand lantern offered me a bit of comfort, but it couldn't save me from the chaos that was ensuing right before my very eyes. A big dark room full of 4 werewolves? I did my best to separate them and take on each one alone, but pack tactics were too much for my brain after getting ravaged by the Emperor. I was cornered and scared, but determined to live, and by sheer luck alone, the wolves die and I survive. I mean, not by sheer luck, by expert and skilled use of the rally system. Yeah. I opened the front door and a subsequent shortcut, but I had to go further. I made contact with an old friend and then stumbled upon a quaint little garden. The Garden of the Celestial Emissary. Super fun finding a boss with 6 vials in a dream. I tried to make contact with them to let them know I came in peace, but they did not seem to care one bit. Luckily for me, this boss was basically the rats from Dark Souls 2, except it was a bit harder to tell who the alpha alien was because they didn't have a sweet punk rock mohawk. I ran around for what felt like an eternity, just swanging on the little aliens as they spawned endlessly, and before long I was finally able to find the Big Papa. I got the boss to half health, and then the Big Papa actually turned into a Big Papa. Lucky for me though, because now I can actually tell what alien I'm supposed to be hitting. I whipped out my poison throwing knives and hucked them at the big boss, hoping that I could proc poison and then only have to worry about running around instead of getting safe hits in. It took all of my knives to proc the poison, and to my surprise the knives themselves actually did quite a bit of damage, but as the poison got ET lower and lower, the punk rock hairdo did come out, but it was too little too late, because it was lights out for the extraterrestrial. And almost lights out for me. I tried making contact once again after the fight was over, but I had no reception. And I am embarrassed to say how long it took me to smash this window here, but after breaking maybe the only illusory wall in Bloodborne, I cleaned up some more of the area and then headed down an elevator to see the most upsetting, writhing mass of tentacles I had ever seen in my entire life. It just laid there, motionless, not doing anything, and if these games have taught me one thing, it's this. If you don't know what to do, start smacking. So I gave it a warning shot to the face. The lifeless mass woke up and it was time to duke it out with the most upsetting bowl of KD I'd ever seen in my entire life. Ebrita's daughter of the cosmos. This noodle-faced monster would strike fear in Pastafarians all around the world, and it had a face only a mother could love. I mean, unless you sprinkled on a little extra Parmesan cheese, and then I bet anyone would enjoy it. Noodles aside, this boss dethroned the wet nurse for number of tries it took to come out on top, and apparently it's supposed to be easy. I don't know, man, I just couldn't get the hang of it. The double swings felt like they were specifically made to catch me right after my dash, and when I tried staying in close, maybe I was too close, but the boss size plus lock-on made me feel like I was swinging blind. Another thing that this boss has in its arsenal is a really annoying charge attack. And because it feels like there are no recovery frames in Bloodborne, it feels like it hits more than once. In most other FromSoft games, when the boss does a charge attack and you don't dodge it, it hits you and then the boss keeps going. You sit there, you're like wah wah, heal up and you're good to go, and the boss has charged past you. But in Bloodborne, it feels like the boss drags you along the ground with it, and then you're at its whim when you wake up on the other side, just hoping you don't get hit a second time. The frenzy projectiles were annoying, but what's more annoying is seeing the startup of an attack and not knowing which one of 3 moves is headed your way. I know this is a skill issue, I know that I'm bad and I'm prepared to admit that, but you know what I'm not? A quitter. I ran headfirst into Ebrita's for an hour. I had no idea what was going on half the time. The camera was awful, but not locking on was even more awful. This was the next evolution of Parl. At this point, you should just sign me up for the any % glitchless Ebrita's blindfolded speedrun, because it's not like I could see what was going on anyway. At least the laser was easy to run away from. I think I'd have an aneurysm if the laser wasn't this easy to run away from. Okay, enough with the complaining. I did eventually get good, and I did eventually learn the moves. I learned when the punish windows were, and after a little bit, I found a groove. The big 2-handed slam left the head wide open for a charge R2, and after 2 of those, I could get myself a free visceral. The big AoE thingy in phase 2 that constantly drained my health, much like the smelter demon, was the only reason I didn't get super aggressive. It was scary. It wasn't elegant. I pretty much just waited for the big moves to happen, and then I would punish them very, very safely, and it made for a slow and boring fight. But sometimes slow and boring is the way to do something. And Ebrita's mother of fingers gets twisted around my fork and chowed down on my 12th attempt. And thankfully, it's a dead end, because I am done with these damn aliens. I tried making contact in a few other places, but my arms got tired. I had a few more things to finish up before going to the DLC, so I visited Yusufka again in her clinic and put her out of her misery to get my second third umbilical cord. Then I visited Ariana again down in the sewers and popped a cap in her baby, and it also killed her. Oops. But I got my third umbilical cord, and for good measure, I did some parkour to find myself in the old abandoned workshop to get my third umbilical cord, and the doll's drip, and some weird deja vu. Hey, wait a second. I took an elevator to the void and finally got enough reception to make contact and call me Gru because I just stole the moon. Then it was finally time to make my way into the DLC. I headed back to Cathedral Ward and got scooped up by Amygdala III and accidentally got my whole bloodline cursed. But they put me back down into Cathedral Ward? Interesting. I was warped to an alternate timeline where the landscapers quit before the job was done. I showed this old hunter my new tricks, and I explored the familiar yet foreign new landscape. What better way to showcase some fun new DLC weapons than have them used on Granny in rapid succession? But it turns out these old hunters like to hunt more than just me, and they'll take out some beasts on the frontier as well, so We take those. They tried to get the upper hand on me, but sorry guys, I'm still not falling for the giant flaming boulder rolling slowly in my direction. I stepped on a landmine for science and thought I was going to get my picture taken like it was 1885, but it was actually just a machine gun pointed right at my face. I approached an ornate door, but the bouncer didn't look too friendly, and I decided to explore a nice, quaint side path. Or so I thought, before coming face to face with a firing squad, but decided to tank it head on, the Devil's Rejects style. Insert Freebird instrumental non-copyright. Yeah, that doesn't exist. Fortunately for me, I made it out the other side, but upon seeing what came next, I was thinking the old Holy Nightclub might be the preferable choice. And it turns out the bouncer wasn't so tough after all, and I dealt with him and then walked into the same place I killed Amelia? Weird. My boss senses were tingling, but the big flaming cleric beast allowed me to take the eye pendant and escape with my life. I was tasked with finding 2 cathedrals in the Hunter's Nightmare. The first was in a private research hall, because of course capitalism has made its way to Yarnum, and even the blood research is privatized. And the second cathedral, just beyond the River of Blood. And I don't know about you, but that looks like a river of blood to me. Rivers of blood. Elden Ring mentioned. I took out some more hunters and was introduced to time delay Molotovs, and I'm really glad that I was only scared with them in this section and that no one else in the entire DLC used them, but thank you very much, Hector. I had a very intense battle with maybe the most aggressive NPC I had met up until this point, but low-budget Wolverine was no match for my Holy Blade, and I was rewarded with another badge. I ran and ran across the River of Blood and was pleasantly surprised when I met a hunter that didn't want to kill me on sight. He spoke ambiguously enough for me to know that he's an NPC with a quest line, and we get a shortcut. I wasn't in the mood to pop any more Canehurst skeeters, and instead I ran for my life. More dogs and birds and hunters, oh my. I kept following the blood as I got blasted by some more heavy artillery, and I thought I could make this guy switch to melee mode when I got close, but he very much enjoyed letting off an explosive right in my face. It felt like the game was trying to rush me forward, so I doubled back and miraculously found a lantern. Thank you very much, Miyazaki. I take back anything bad I have said up until this point. I played around with my shadow for a bit and figured out the time in the nightmare with a makeshift sundial before getting ambushed from behind by a hunter, and then I was offered some escargot and picked up ye old pizza cutter. With nothing left to explore, there was only one thing for me to do: enter the first prophesied cathedral. That is absolutely disgusting. Peter, the horse is here. Ludwig the Accursed does indeed look very cursed. Half horse, half beast, all hard on the eyes. I could not tell you Ludwig's ass from his face, but what I can tell you is that I couldn't dodge these attacks to save my life. I faced many a flailing foe up until this point, but each limb hit harder than the last, and I was stuck in a loop of trying to out-heal the chip damage instead of, I don't know, using the rally system, I guess. Despite the size, Ludwig was fast, very aggressive, and had combos that lasted longer than other bosses I had bested up until this point. The damage done to Ludwig from his own Holy Blade was pretty good, and the music was peak. This, however, did not make up for the fact that I was getting bucked and trampled like I was an untrained bull rider at the Calgary Stampede. And if that wasn't enough, this horse survived the glue factory and gained the ability to shoot Elmers with the strength of a fire hose. My first attempt did not go well. I felt like I was getting stuck in Ludwig's model, only to be freed from the predicament by the sweet release of death. On try number 3, I did my best to stay at his hindquarters, and it did allow for big punishes, and I thought I could get close when it did the glue spray attack, but for some reason the other head is also spitting something, and a lot of damage was tanked. Despite my attempt to be more aggressive, I was once again the victim of, what the hell am I looking at? And I got stuck under the Chernobyl horse as it tap danced on my forehead. On my 4th try, I played not more aggressive, but smarter. I backed off when I could recognize some of the longer combos, and I dashed in for the punish when I knew I could get some free hits in. And then, when I thought it couldn't get any worse, the unthinkable happened. Phase 2. And it's not just a, hey, I'm gonna scream now and have a few more moves. We got a cutscene. And in that moment, he revealed to me, my beloved, my guiding moonlight. I need that sword. I was taking moonlight straight to the face, but it was beautiful. That majestic glow, I knew what had to be done. I was dancing around Ludwig, now the Holy Blade instead of a jumbled mass of hide and bone, but I was playing too scared. I was dodging away when I should have been sticking in close, and I got eclipsed by the moonlight. And then came the humbler attempt. After every good run at a FromSoft boss, you always need that humbler to just keep your ego in check. On my 6th attempt and second time getting Ludwig to phase 2, it all clicked. I entered the flow state. He started with an AoE, but I would not be deterred. I knew I had to bring that blade home. While I couldn't see what limb was coming for my face in Wild Horse phase, I could absolutely see a big, glowing sword. Phase 2 was actually much easier for me because my little prefrontal cortex recognizes, oh, big weapon, dodge the big weapon, don't get hit. Ludwig was peak and the phase 2 music was peak, but all From Software bosses with large swords have one weakness. Dodge slowly to the left and find the safe spot where they can't hit you. Now, of course, I still had to dodge, but there was a tiny little area that I found where some of Ludwig's slashes would just graze the tip of my top hat, and I had all the time in the world to get a swing or two in. I was dodging into the boss, I was rallying, I was an unrelenting hunter, and he was my prey. I was bobbing and weaving, and for one of the only bosses in the game, I was finding moves that I could strafe. Ludwig and I were having a dance, and it was very satisfying. But all dances must come to an end, and Ludwig falls to maybe the most cathartic heavy attack of my entire playthrough. Phase 2 was so much easier. I found the horseless headman lying in the arena and decided to do the right thing and put him out of his misery. And with that, I was awarded my favorite sword in the From Software universe, my Moonlight. I will find you in every game, my beloved Moonlight sword that I don't have the stats to wield. I came back from the Hunter's Dream to find what's-his-name standing over Ludwig's hole-ridden corpse. Dude has so much aura when he hits that idle animation, and he also sounds like adult Stewie Griffin, or maybe Salad Fingers. I went through the church's holding cells and then was met with the Bloodborne equivalent of Ornstein and Smo. I heckin' hate NPC fights, man. Once again, the NPC fights in Bloodborne are proving to be harder than the bosses because I died to this duo way more times than I died to Ludwig. After many deaths here, I went back to Hemwick Charnel Lane to farm blood vials. That's right, I'm farming blood vials for the NPC fights. Luckily, I was also able to gain some echoes and the ability to wield my holy Moonlight sword. I love it so much, except for the fact that it costs bullets to do the heavy attack. Not cool. Back to the DLC, there was one thing I could think of to best these NPCs without defeating them. That's right, Miyazaki, I'm not falling for your tricks. Making NPCs harder to pad the DLC for runtime? I don't think so. I ran right past them, put the eye pendant on the altar, and rode the elevator up, leaving them in my wake. See you later, losers. I finally made it to the research hall, the pinnacle of privatized healthcare in Yarnum. I can't wait to see what medical marvels they have cooked up in here. I hope it's not just coked out enemies with bloated heads. Damn it, dude. This part of the game also reminded me of the Specimen Storehouse from the Elden Ring DLC. Not sure why, just similar vibe. Flip, plop, splish, splash to you too, sir. I made my way up the floors of the laboratory, found an elevator, and stumbled upon a bloathead who still had her sanity. She thought I was some loser named Maria. Either way, I decided to take on her quest, and I was now on the hunt for brain fluid. I tried to make the delayed Molotovs work, but honestly, not a very useful item, at least from the snap judgment I made after trying to use it a single time. But after introducing test subjects to my experimental techniques, I finally made it up to the rafters, and now it's really giving me Specimen Storehouse vibes, especially after cranking that lever. Anyone else straight up cranking it right now? I sure hope not. The main staircase rotated in rows, which meant I got to explore a whole new version of this maze. Yippee. And then another NPC fight. Not yippee. This guy had poison knives and a whip and wouldn't follow me off that damn tight staircase. Then I went to him and it was time for the match of the century. 2 hunters on the floating octagon with Flip-Plop Lady shoutcasting the whole thing. I thought I had the upper hand, but then realized that Flip-Plop was on his side, blocked me from my escape, and I died. When I came to at the lamp, I could hear the NPC praying downstairs because I left her alive there, and Mr. Aura Farmer made his way to the research hall as well. The hunter saw me coming for revenge and got so scared he jumped off, leaving me the victor. And then I gave Flip-Plop a lobotomy and harvested her brain juice for the other NPC on the ground floor. I gave her what she requested, and she offered me her blood as payment. Looks better than Ariana's. I did some parkour and opened a large door that led me to another boss fight, the Living Failures. It's me! I didn't do too much damage to the failures, and it became clear that more and more would keep spawning as the fight went on. They did, however, have super long windups to their melee attacks, which left them ripe for a nice parry and visceral. Even while exploiting their weaknesses, more spawned in, spamming me with ranged magic, and my first attempt didn't go very well. And I actually do think now I've joined the Bloodborne Hall of Shame. I went back to check out my runes from Carol and swapped them out to give me more damage on my viscerals and also health regeneration on my viscerals, and then it was time for revenge. Attempt number 2 went much better, lots of parries, viscerals, and decent crowd control. My runes from Carol pretty much doubled the amount of damage I was doing on viscerals, and I was able to recover a significant amount of health as well. I was greedy for the parry, but it was working out for me. That is until they all put their hands up in the air sometimes, singing "Heyo," and then dropped meteors on my head. Try number 3, I did the exact same thing, but instead of dying to the rocks, I employed the same strategy I used for Murgo's wet nurse, and I ran around the arena like crazy. I was able to dodge the meteor shower, and I just kept parrying, I just kept visceraling, and at the end of the day, I was able to take out the living failures, and they lived up to their name. Not the most interesting fight, but I do love parrying bosses. And to that one chatter who came into my stream and said I never parried, look at me now. I got the key to the clock tower and, well, opened the clock tower. Bing bong, lady, time to wake up. I tried to say hello, but she went in for the kiss. Who am I to deny you a smooch? Oh, I don't think she wants the smooch. Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower, what a phenomenal fight. Her moves are quick, her combos are long, but no matter how much aura you have, you can always catch a bullet to the dome. And by bullet to the dome, I mean a good old-fashioned parry. The American way. The American parry triumphs over British lady with a big weapon. She brought a twin blade to a gunfight. Very silly, Maria. But I also brought hubris to a boss fight and ended up paying the price. On my second try, I made it to phase 2 and found out that Rivers of Blood started in Bloodborne, with Lady Maria on top of the clock tower, beyond the River of Blood, and it didn't take long for me to bleed out. I was unfamiliar with her game. Twin was blading me over and over, and I got too in my head about trying to get the parry, and my brain would just turn off as soon as she entered phase 2. I got really good at phase 1, so good that it felt like a science. I could get the initial parry, and I'm not sure if it was a solved loop, but after taking the visceral, I could do 2 R1s with the untricked Holy Blade, and then she would do an easy to parry slash over and over and over until her phase 1 was done. I could wipe the floor with her phase 1, but her phase 2? Her phase 3? It was time to just lock in and not worry about parrying. Sure, it was fun, but if I was going to win this fight, I just needed to learn when to dodge, because the moves in phase 2 and 3 are pretty much the same as phase 1, just with some dramatic flourish, whether it be blood or flame. The Holy Sword was doing good damage, and I was able to stagger her frequently and even interrupt some attacks. I was playing aggressive, learning to dodge into her, fighting my fears and facing my problems head on. And rallying. After 18 failed attempts, I knew her like a book. When to dodge, when to counterattack, when to back off and let her do her thing. On the 19th try, I was once again in the flow state. And sure, I still took some flame to the face, but Granny was determined to come out on top. Maria had an overdue library book, and Burdette was here to collect the late fee. I loved this fight from start to finish, and it honestly might be my favorite in the entire game. I can't wait to do another Bloodborne playthrough simply to go toe-to-toe with Maria once again. She might take the throne for most tries on a boss so far, but each one of those tries was enjoyable. Looking at you, Rom. The music was absolutely amazing, but all good things must come to an end, and time was finally up for Maria of the Astral Clock Tower. Bing bong, lady. What a fight. I picked up the celestial dial, held it up to the clock, and was granted access to what lay beyond. No idea who Mother Koss is, but I sure hope she's nice and didn't abandon her child or anything. The fishing hamlet was not my vibe and made Wasaga Beach look like a sandals resort. It made Lake Ontario look like glacier water. Just wading through at ankle deep made me think I was contracting something unfathomable. So here's the thing, I was really trying to finish this game in 4 days. It was supposed to be 3 days and then turn to 4 days. Whatever, doesn't matter. But I wasn't too interested in the fishing hamlet, and everything here scared me anyway, so I ran for my life until I found the first lamp, and also came upon my aura farming friend taking his final breath. I never caught your name, and I'll never use your weapon, but I'll pour out a blood vial for you when I reach the end of this nightmare. He also warned me that there's an assassin on the loose. So fun. I was confronted by who I can only assume was the assassin, wielding great stars, and I skillfully and purposefully avoided his attack and ran away at the same time. I was not a fan of the assassin, explosives, fish people, or the Seaman shamans calling down the might of Zeus to smite me where I stand. When I'm trying to get through an area quickly in a FromSoft game, not that you should do this, especially on your first time, I am a moron, I gauge where the game is trying to get me to go, and then I go in the opposite direction, and 80% of the time, it works every time. I found a shortcut and continued on to find uncooked escargot ready to be thrown at the next hunter who dares cross the Blood Lake. Then I found another elevator and shortcut that spit me back out where my one and only friend of the DLC bid me farewell. Back down the elevator, I saw all the shellless snails leading me towards a very obvious boss arena. Falcor the Luck Dragon lost all his hair and washed up on a beach just in time to give birth to maybe the most gruesome and upsetting boss design I have seen so far. I love it. A writhing mass of flesh and bone just squelched out of that beached whale, and the cracked-out putrescent knight was ready to fight. The Orphan of Kos, a very cinematic fight, and I thought Maria was a fast-paced one. The Orphan and his Skipet of Placenta were unrelenting in their assault. I can't tell you exactly what body parts these are because I didn't pay attention in health class, but let's just say no one cut the cord. My first attempt at this boss was rough. No rally, no aggression, all vials. I was wildly unprepared to take on a foe with the speed and agility and combos that this bozo had in his arsenal. On top of that, the constant screams and sounds of someone mixing a bowl of mac and cheese were a constant assault on my eardrums. On my second attempt, I got the boss to phase 2, and if it wasn't jumping around enough as it was, let's make it twice as fast, 3 times as aggressive, and give it a move that carpet bombs you with pieces of uterine lining, all while it calls forth help from its absentee parent in the form of a lightning stage hazard. Not cool, bro. Making it this far on my second try gave me a sense of false confidence because I was in it for the long haul here. I gave it my all trying to learn the moves, but the arena was just so small. I was getting caught in corners, I was getting caught on the rocks. Pretty much anywhere I could get caught off guard with my pants down, I was getting caught off guard with my pants down. This orphan was hunting me down like I was the one directly responsible for killing its parents. This was Batman, and I was the thug outside the theater that shot Thomas and Martha Wayne. I don't know what the lore is here, bro, but I am pretty sure I didn't do that to you. I ran out of blood vials faster than I knew it, and after many times in this run farming blood vials, I needed help. I was at my limit. I needed to stay in the zone of the boss fight. I couldn't take my eyes off of the prize. I needed the Cum Chalice. There's one chalice dungeon that you can farm an obscene amount of echoes in, and you bet your booty I did it. But, Scout's honor, I only used these echoes to buy vials and bullets, and that's it. But I was at the end of my rope. I didn't want to keep farming in Hemwick Charnel Lane. Be mad if you must, but honestly, I think Cum FPK might just be a rite of passage. I had a sneaking suspicion that an orphan born under a full moon might have a bit of a resistance to my sword that does moon damage, so I swapped to the cold steel of Ludwig's Holy Blade for the rest of my attempts, and it was doing a bit more. Either way, I still feel like I was a bit low on my damage output, but that's never gonna stop me. There was one thing, though, that turned the tables and gave me the upper hand, and that was bringing the fight to the water. No wonder I was complaining about the size of the arena. I was only using an eighth of it. I also found out that I could parry this bozo. Get visceraled, nerd. Out in the water, I was doing so much better. I was learning the attacks. I had way more space to run. This is what my dog must have felt like when she went to live on the farm. There were surprisingly more attacks than I thought that were strafable, and I was getting some charge R2 butt stabs whenever I had the chance. The orphan was much less scary in the open ocean, and one of my attempts got so close and I wanted to be done for the night, but I felt it in the heart of the cards to just do one more. And when I tell you my attempts had never felt cleaner, or as clean as you can get while still using all 20 blood vials, but I was playing patiently, I was waiting to attack, my dodges were crisp, I was rallying, I was staying close to the hip, I was strafing attacks, and before you know it, the Orphan of Kos was no match for Granny Burdette. Not even with help from his beached whale of a mom. Prey slaughtered. 24 attempts. I got the Cos Parasite, whatever that is, and then dispatched of the orphan, for real, no cap, to slay the nightmare. Sweet child of Cos returned to the ocean. Good luck to the next hunter, because I am out of here. Although there is one more boss in the DLC, isn't there? I had to go back down the elevator where I left those 2 NPCs, but after fighting the bosses that I had overcome, they didn't seem like much of a threat anymore. Well, they were still a threat, actually. I killed one and left the other because holy heck, these NPCs are tanky. I got Lawrence's skull and got the hell out of there. I went back to the torched up cleric beast, and this time it came alive before my very eyes. It was time to take on Lawrence, the first vicar. Oh yay, nice, more screaming. Shortly into the fight I broke my sword, but good thing I had the Holy Moonlight sword in my back pocket to deal massive damage. To deal okay damage. It seemed really fitting that the sloppy boss fight I never learned at the beginning of the game would come back to bite me in the ass at the end of the DLC. The long sweeping attacks of this asshole had me all messed up. I really am quite the idiot, and I don't know why sometimes it takes a bit longer for boss movesets to fry themselves into my brain. I was slowly learning, but thank goodness I had as many vials as I did. Still no idea if I can mash to reduce grab damage, but even if it's a placebo, it makes me feel better. On my 6th try, I finally saw Lawrence Phase 2, and while I was initially scared by the lava AoE and trail left behind on the ground, I was strafing the boss and found safe haven in his armpit. There was still a bit of effort involved to dodge the lava, but for the most part I was safe and I was free to wail on him with R2s to my heart's content. Not too much to say about this guy, just a cleric beast on fire and a real scary phase 2, but stay in close and wail on him and Lawrence goes down. Vicar, I hardly know her. The second time. Or I guess it's technically the first one. The DLC was finished and I could finally see what the doll had been trying to tell me about for the last 10 hours. Garamond was waiting for me at the foot of the tree and wanted to talk. I munched on all 4/3 of umbilical cord and I marched over to Garamond to give old Pegleg a piece of my mind. The moon was high, the scene was set, the night was nearing its end. Garamond offered me swift mercy in death, but I wasn't ready to die yet, and I still had a bone to pick with him for what he said about the doll. Garamond revealed his Nen ability, crazy slots, and I revealed mine, parrying. He was pretty fast, like Maria, but he didn't have combos nearly as long, although some of his individual hits hit much harder. And that damn input reading. I was using his scythe as a toothpick, but I was getting in my parries as often as I could. His openings were big, and for the most part, I was able to keep him on his knees. The arena was beautiful visually, but any boss arena where I have to worry about the camera or getting stuck on clutter makes me want to perish. Garamond was so fast, and there were some moves where he dashes through you and the camera spins around so fast and leaves you disoriented afterwards. I got him to phase 2 on my first attempt, but the first attempt ended shortly after. Try number 2 was closer, but then I was quite literally brought from 100 to 0% health in a single move. I'm not sure if it was counter damage or what, but this old dog certainly knows a few tricks. With one more failed attempt under my belt, I was ready to end it all. Like him, not me. I was determined, my resolve was strong, and I put on an absolute clinic and parried him relentlessly. As soon as he got up, I would put him right back down on the ground. Parry after parry, visceral after visceral, even in phase 2, he stood no chance against me. I don't even think I can dodge his moves. I don't really know his attack patterns, but let me parry, give me a gun, and I'll come out on top. Yeehaw, Garamond. Rest in pieces. You sorry excuse for a hunter. I was immediately greeted by another xenomorph. She tried to embrace me in a nice hug, but I pushed back. I would not fall for your tricks, lady. The moon presence, what a boss. I do love a good back-to-backer. The only thing in the back of my head right now is I really hope I don't have to fight Garamond again if I fail on this attempt. That would suck. I hate that guy. This was definitely more of a visual boss, a lore boss, if you will. I feel like a lot of From Software games have lore bosses at the end, which makes it all the more embarrassing when she absolutely rocks my absolutely eats my ass. There's no other way to put it. I'm on the final boss of the game, and I'm still popping blood vials like I'm chugging Estus and not rallying. So many bad habits still not broken. A second try was all I needed though, and I played much more aggressively, taking heavy attacks with my holy sword of moonlight. The glow of the blade and the screams of moon presence It was honestly peak. I didn't get to use it for too long, but I absolutely love my Moonlit Greatsword. The big attack that concerned me was the one where she takes away your entire health bar, but after wailing on her and not just popping blood vials, I was able to get the job done, and I finished the game as any true hunter should, with a visceral right to the moon. I slayed my final nightmare, and with that, Bloodborne is beaten. All bosses, too. I hope. Daylight shined upon the old workshop in the hunter's dream, and the doll cradled me in her arms once more. A hunter through and through, and a great one born anew. Bloodborne was an incredible experience, and despite all the speed bumps and roadblocks, I absolutely enjoyed playing it and streaming it. This game has some of the best and worst bosses that From Software has to offer, but that's the beauty of it. All the games do. You have to have both sides of the coin. My top 3 bosses were Martyr Ligarius, Orphan of Kos, and at number 1, Maria. The environment was so dense and immersive, the story was phenomenal. Well, the elements of the story that my dumbass could pick up on, and I'm glad I got to do a couple quests along the way. Despite my gameplay, I do really love the fast-paced combat and the rally system, and I'm sure as I play Bloodborne more, I'll be able to break some of my old habits and do even better in some of these boss fights. Thank you so much for watching, shout out to my members, I appreciate you, and I'll catch you in the next one. Happy hunting.
Good. All signed and sealed. Now, let's begin the transfusion. Oh, don't you worry. Whatever happens, you may think it all a mere